platforms by which you can do this will be on your screens. We encourage you to take advantage of them and join the discussion in the studio, calling with your questions or comments. But for those who will be phoning in, let me repeat this as I always do every Tuesday. If you do get through on the phone, do us a favor, turn down the volume of your TV set. That way will avoid the hurlback or the echo. Just turn down the volume of your TV set. And also for those phoning in, also not waste too much time going on with the usual greetings. Just go straight to the point, make your point, your question or your comment. And I guess we'll be willing to respond to such issues as you might raise. So once again, we'd like to welcome you to NTA Tuesday Live. And let's go straight to Lagos. And we're going to show you a senior special assistant to the President of Media and Publicity. Remind us, if you will, of the President's resolve to tackle corruption in the Nigerian society.
Our viewers would obviously remember that President Muhammadu Buhari ran 3 times in the past for the presidency of the country and only succeeded in the 4th election to be elected as president. On each of those past counts on which he ran, the major principle, his message was he was opposed to corruption because it was detrimental to national growth, national development and the well-being of Nigerians, and he was going to fight corruption. I recall very well in the course of the last campaign, he had a meeting with business leaders in Lagos here. And he said one thing, that he would fight corruption with all the resources available to the government of Nigeria. But more importantly, he said one thing, that he would lead by example. And that he believed that when he got into the office of the President of Nigeria, official corruption will go down by 50%. The fact that he has occupied the office. And I'm happy to report that we are already witnessing what I will call the Buhari environment. The fact of his occupation of the office of the president has sent such a strong message to all of the Nigerians that be mindful. This is a government that will not condone corruption. And thanks for the clips you just have shown before the commencement of this discussion. Look at the power situation. You know, the power handling company said some time ago that they were at the verge of calling for 24-hour unbroken power supply in some cities like Lagos. Other parts of the country enjoy 16 to 18 hours of power. And yes, as that gentleman said, this is a sector in which 16 billion US dollars, 15 million US dollars was sunk into it. Nothing came out of it. And here we are, without a penny of the Nigerian government money going into this sector. Everybody is sitting up and they're doing the right things, ensuring that power, and this is just one area of national life. It's going all around, and this is what that change promised to Nigerians.
Very much for those comments. We'll return to you as we go on in this program. But back here in our Abuja studio, we have the chairman of the Independent Corrupt Practices and Other Related Offences Commission, the ICPC, Mr. Opinta. Give us your perspective on just how bad the situation has gone to.
We try to feel the pulse of the country and other societies by comments from citizens. And anybody who does not use that as a barometer will probably not understand why it's something you should be doing. The term corruption has become almost a byword at every conversation, at every gathering of persons, which for me, if you do an opinion poll, that what is your greatest headache within your society, corruption would score very high. And I think it's a positive approach now, because if people are coming out with one voice to speak in the same tone and showing the same abhorrence and dislike for a particular process, then it's easier to get everybody to move in the same direction and have the same agreements as to what is constituting a drain and a bar to your ability to have a good life within the country or anywhere in the world. So that has driven our responses in terms of what we should be looking at. And if you look at all the papers in the morning, you will discover that corruption attracts a very high percentage in terms of discourse. You listen to radio programs, you listen to TV programs, it's the same issue, which I think is very, very positive, that we have at least come to a common realization that corruption is evil. It takes away national resources which we should use in bettering our lives, and we could do better. That in a nutshell is what I can infer from the entire process.
Alright, BG National Orientation Agency.
Well, thank you very much. First, I would say that we are on the right track. Second, what is this corruption that we are talking about? What really is the corruption? I have tried to study and check books, and all I have seen is a simple definition of corruption as using political power for personal, dishonestly or fraudulently for personal gains. Now, from the discussions, what we've had, what we have seen even in the offices and on the streets, we have expanded the definition of corruption out beyond government using political power or government power to dishonestly, to even our conduct generally. We have introduced more vices that are corrupt, tending towards corruption. So we have expanded the definition of corruption in this country. And from the report again, you say health is wealth. But I think now is the reverse. Wealth is health. When we get more money, we can buy the doctors, we can buy a hospital. We can pay for trips anywhere in the world. We can go and look for doctor medicine anywhere in the world. Instead of making the environment, the physical environment within which we live in, better for not just I, but everybody at less cost. Paying attention to this vice that is eating deep into the crucible of our growth is for the first time achieving results even without effective action. Like Professor said, discussions in beer parlors, on street corners are now focusing on corruption and even the conduct of people. People are afraid and apprehensive that, look, if I do the wrong things. And this is what agencies like the NTA have been talking about since we came on board. Do the right things for Nigeria to be great again. And the simple fact that an example of doing the right things has surfaced is making us to adjust and take the direction. I think it is a plus, and it shows also that a responsible leadership can ginger followership. It has now shown that as much as the same as you have a responsibility to fighting corruption, leadership also has a clear, important, critical responsibility to fighting corruption.
Thank you. How will everyone Sarah Sanjani?
Well, both in civil society, of course, like every other Nigerian, we look corruption as a serious impediment to national development and even integrity, because you need to know the impact, the negative impact of this corruption when you just travel to a neighboring country. Once you are a Nigerian, as far as they are concerned, you are a potential fraud, and that has negatively, affected, a lot of people who are not part of that, system of corruption. So, because also in Nigeria, public institutions have been, destroyed because of this corruption thing. Nothing, you want to do in this country without this issue of corruption. If you are sick, you go to hospital, before you get the doctor to see the doctor, you have to bribe. If you want to get admission, it doesn't matter whether you have you've got the high score, you are likely going to be, exploited. If you are looking for a job, you may get all the necessary qualification and experience. If you don't pay bribe, or you don't know big man or big woman in Nigeria, you might not get that. So it has actually destroyed the whole system. But I think, all the other people have mentioned, this is a good moment for us now. At least people are now scared to commit more fresh mega corruption in this country, because even those who have done it in the past, they are trying to see how they can repent, at least by not committing more of it, because they've seen that they are not going to get, away with it, as they used to do it in the past. But I think more importantly, we need to be happy that, this conversation is going on, and also trying to see that something tangible is done at all levels, not just at the level of federal government, at the level of state, at the level of local government, even in the family and our communities, because this corruption thing happens at all levels. So we should not be looking at federal government or states or everywhere. We need to do something to sanitize the system and rescue our integrity, and revitalize the public institutions that have been collapsed, degenerated because of this corruption.
Thank you. Well, we return to Lagos now. Let me take you up on this. It was the comrade governor, Adams Oshomole of Edo State, who brought in a new maxim and said the fear of the body language of the president is the beginning of wisdom. And that even without speaking, you take a look at the president, knowing his antecedents, you begin to think twice. But again, Nigerians have said that those who are deep into corrupt practices are not going to sit by and just let this thing go. They'll fight back, and Nigeria will say corruption is strong and tough and can fight. Now, let us put it back at the doorstep of the president here. Easily as a politician, you have had to come into office with all kinds of people. It's a mix, and some have contributed to him being president today. Do you think there's any thing to worry about, that those who had other plans of trying to support the president to get into office might still stand in his way of tackling this corruption? And of course there are some very powerful people who may have had other ideas.
Well, I think that what is clear from the choice that the people who came together and put up money to support President Buhari to run for office is that they are prepared to make a change. Now, it is important for the country that people are willing to discuss the issue of corruption, They are willing to invest their own money in projects that will lead to the fight against corruption. Don't forget that in not too distant past, even at the level of rhetoric, corruption was not being opposed. So the point is that the people who have conscience, and there are many of them in the APC, they may have done wrong things in the past, but the one who says, okay, the country deserves a new chance, and then they decide to say, let's draw a line, put everything, all the evil we have done in the past behind us. We are now ready to move forward. That's very significant for the country. So I look at it in a very positive way, that yes, there are people who have done wrongdoing in the past who are still around the present, but they are saying, look, we are ready to make the change. We want to leave our past ways that have not been beneficial to the country, and that we want to, live with the present and to give the new, to give a new future to the country. And this is the significance of what we are witnessing. So rather than being seen as a possible obstacles to the war against corruption that the program will and is waging, no, it's for us encourage them, cheer them up, for putting up somebody who made it clear from day one, this is my mission, I'm going to fight corruption, and they said, this is it, we are supporting you, we are putting our resources on you. The country deserves this. The bad people of the past, I mean all the philosophers, Bible, Quran, if you are a bad man today, you should be encouraged to become a good person tomorrow. So that's what we are witnessing in the country.
Let's look at it with chairman of the ICPC. Is it the institutions that have not been strengthened enough? Is it the character? Because you begin to hear things like, well, that's the Nigerian way. Is there really a Nigerian way of doing things? Is it the people? Is there something in us? Is it the institutions, or is it the laws?
From my experiences, I would say that we should really hold systems responsible, because if systems are working, it will regulate the persons within those systems, and that's why when you are boarding a plane, for example, and you look into the pilot cabin, you see the two pilots going through a checklist: pressure, right, tires, right. So you can benchmark every process within the system, and whether you're a pilot in Nigeria or you're a pilot in Russia, you are using the same systemic approach dealing with issues. And if you're a bad pilot, the system will shut down. And so we had for long allowed our systems to go into reverse. No matter how strong-willed you are as a person, you can only drive that system to a point and face a lot of opposition. So I'm looking at a systemic review which has been figured to be something that is sustainable. And if I would like to comment on what the last speaker just said, the reform process is really critical to changing perception. And I'm using the example of Siemens. Siemens was one of the international companies that had been castigated internationally and sanctioned for certain bad practices they had been involved in. Today, Siemens is one of the leading examples of funding good practices everywhere in the world. They put a lot of money in it to say, look, we know we didn't do too well in the past, so we are encouraging people to stay on the right path. And that means that no matter how bad you think you were in the past, instead of continuing to be a clog in the wheel of progress of this country, you can come out openly and say, look, I have realized my mistakes, and this is the kind of restitution that I want us to see, because even the person who is destroying systems eventually become a victim themselves. If you are not a victim, your own children will become victims. So that is not to remove the aspect of character. Character is very important in the family. The leadership you give within your family will take a lot of things forward. Even if you are not there, they say, look, let's respect what the leader in the house has said, and if you respect him, then you do what is expected to be done within the society.
Right. Staying with the attitude of Nigerians,
Yes.
is it enough?
Yes. You spoke about, I think the question is also related to the issue of strong institutions. Yes. For instance, I keep making reference to the agency that I run. Anyway, today when I came to the agency, each local government area was given 2,000 naira to run the office. That is inadvertently encouraging corruption, because we're suddenly not going to do anything. Without resources, we attempted to make it 10,000, but we cannot even sustain it. We have reduced it to about 5,000 right now. That is too shameful for people. And why an agency that is supposed not to implement things on a touch and go manner, but on a sustainable basis, is not adequately funded to do the jobs that it has to do, then we have to be running around looking for capacity, looking for support outside normal systems. And why I'm saying this is, people have entered the service believing that certain abnormal corrupt tendencies are the normal things. Because they are used to seeing a public servant, a civil servant, who has no other known means of production than public service that he is in, coming home displaying stupendous wealth in the community. And there is no way for them to know that his conduct or the outcome or the impact of what he is doing is affecting even him directly in the village. And the new person who is entering the service is aspiring to copy that person. So an agency like the NTA is supposed to embark on a massive anti-corruption education on a continuous basis. I remember we attempted a program with the ICPC at a point, but we cannot sustain it with 2,000 naira. It's not possible. The agency is giving 36 million naira to run over 800 offices with 5,000 staff. So how do you expect such institution that is supposed to galvanize society, mobilize people, and sensitize them to the critical aspect of this societal ill advice? So if we are able to do the right things at that level, we may reduce the burden of investigators of ICPC, the police and EFCC and so forth and so on, and we will now concentrate on the bigger crooks who know what to do with our collective national heritage. And incidentally, they are the ones who get all the money, and so therefore, and they have enough time to siphon the money, build castles, build barriers around them, to think of how to steal it more.
Okay. Well, the phone lines are already open, and I believe we have the first call coming from Sokoto. Atahiru calling in from Sokoto. Go ahead.
Hello.
Hello.
Good evening, school.
Yes, good evening.
I am listening to the topic of discussion with Nigeria's anti-corruption campaign. Looking at the subject in the topic in discussion, which is corruption, anti-corruption campaign. Corruption is multifaceted. It has so many places. That is to say, it has so many places, and it is practiced in all parts of human life in Nigeria. Hello? For example, like in educational institutions, economic institutions, and other parts of human life. And there are agencies that are put in place in Nigeria which their work is to fight against corruption, which include EFCC, ICPC, Commission HQ. my own question is that if these agencies are doing their job as expected, and presently the corruption is expected to reduce into a lower level, because these agencies are in charge of fighting against corruption, and there are rules and regulations already that are put in place, and sanction is provided against any part of corruption. So if we look at what is happening contemporaneously in Nigeria, people are meeting, engaging in all parts of corruption, and they are not being punished according to the law. So I think that is what contributed immensely in people engaging in corrupt practices.
Okay.
So for me, another thing is as a word of advice, these corrupt practices agencies should be headed by people of integrity, people who have personal quality. If these people are well trained, they have quality of being honest and morally upright. So I think they can help the agencies as expected.
Alright, thank you very much, Atahiru. Thank you. Giving some words of advice there. But let's see from the Saudi point of view. Is it that we have not put in, enough deterrent measures to deter people, or just that we have not applied measures?
But actually, if you look at it, we have, a lot of institutions, in place, and we have, also a lot of legislation, in place. But actually, sometimes there are a lot of combination of issues. For example, when you deliberately underfund the anti-corruption agencies to do their work. For example, I'll give you an example. Code of Conduct Bureau. The investigation department, they have less than 20 people to investigate the claim of almost 5,000 public officers who declare their assets. How do you really go about doing that? So most of the anti-corruption agencies, they are not funded, and you expect them to actually do this civic education, you expect them to carry out investigation, you expect them to do a lot of things that will help to probe, block the leakages, and what have you. I think what we need to do now, and new president, what we need to do now, really, is to see how we can support those institutions, revitalize these institutions, make them to be active, so that we provide both the human and financial resources required to carry out their, responsibilities. If you don't do that, then it means that we will not be able to deal with the issue of corruption the way it should be. Second, let it also be known that it is a collective responsibility, and that is why we have been pushing for the adoption of national strategy to combat corruption in Nigeria, so that it will include everybody, public officials, civil servants, civil society, community leaders, religious leaders. Everybody should play a role. And thirdly, the point that the gentleman made about sanction and political will. If you don't apply sanction, you will allow impunity to run like the way we've seen in the past. So now, in order to be able to deal with issues of corruption, you must make sure that, if you debate, if you do not do the right things, the law is there to take its course. Irrespective of your political affiliation or even religious, geographical, or travel thing, because in the past that was the diversion that some people who didn't want to fight corruption they do. So they would just say because he's from my village, or he's from my ethnic group, or he's from my church, or he's from my mosque, or from just to divert attention. At the same time, that person is looking, enjoying the loot. You that you are supporting that kind of evil thing, you are suffering, you are dying, you cannot even get even 3 mile square, decent 3 mile square, but you are supporting somebody who has looted what the whole community would have benefited for.
Alright, well, we have another caller from Abia, Chibuzo, calling in from Abia. Chibuzo, go ahead. Yes, Chibuzo, go ahead.
Okay.
Yeah.
You asked a very good question to the special advisor to the president. But I'm surprised that the question was not answered. They asked whether the people that supported the president can be a clock or can be a hindrance to the fight against corruption. This is the only headache they have in this country. It's the big headache. But I'm still surprised that the question was not answered, and at the same time, we diverted and we couldn't keep it true. My question is this: we don't need the money that they cannot detect. We don't support the president that even should continue. How is it that you think that, like what we asked us, that they are going to keep back what they have been doing before? Is it possible? Why not put the question that even though have done what they do by supporting the president, they don't give them the incentive of their policy to continue in their evil way. Because those people who are running around and with research, they had much, they had help. They did not actually help. So please, sir, let us know if they possibly to return them their money, that can be done. At least Nigeria had enough. All these big guys, they see somebody that asked that they collected the gift about 50 million from under his day. Can we have to talk people? We talk of people like the consumer of customs who has amongst tonight. If they have supported, they really will go through. Thank you.
Alright, thank you, State. We'll let the Senior Special Assistant to the President respond to that.
Let me say that there was no intention on my part to evade the question. I think the point I was trying to make is that it must be appreciated of Nigerians who it is believed that had done wrongdoing in the past, that they have now made a new resolve to chart a new course for themselves and for the nation. That the fact that you have said, I'm going to support this change from wrongdoing, from corrupt Nigeria to a corruption-free country, means that you have also made progress at the personal level. Let me state clearly that Muhammad Buhari had made it very clear that even if a member of his family was involved, he will not shield that person. He will fight corruption without fear or favor. And I believe that he's already doing that. We have had the complaints where some people trying to say, politics is there in some of the, people who are being looked at and questioned and so on. Very often, people tend to forget that some of the earliest people who had been brought to questioning and trial had come from the same political party with the president himself. So I have a feeling that this is just the beginning of the war, and we should not judge it by the beginning, no. Let us see it run its own course. And at the end of it, Nigerians will be happy that they have made the right decision in putting a man who has the will, who has the determination and the courage to go after corrupt elements in our society, whoever they are. President Buhari will not shield anybody, whether they are party members or even family members that are caught in wrongdoing. This is my answer.
Okay, thank you. We have a caller from Lagos. Henry is calling in from Lagos. Henry, go ahead. Hello, Henry. Okay.
Yeah, good evening. My name is Henry from Lagos.
Yes, go ahead.
See, this is the first time in Nigeria that we have... Can you hear me? Can you hear me?
Yes, go on.
Can you hear me?
Go on, we can hear you, go on.
I'm actually saying this is the first time in Nigeria that the citizens of Nigeria are feeling this sense of belonging with this with the president of the country. I am happy with the corruption crusade that the president is carrying out with his cabinet members. I want to ask a question. What is the president doing about the corruption in the power sector? That's one. And two, how is the president ensuring that those corrupt government officials, which some of them are still, holding positions, that money were discovered in their accounts, foreign accounts abroad? How does the president intend to carry out their probing? And if, after probing them, will they be still allowed to remain in the office or step down? I want to know what the president's plan is towards this.
Okay.
Thank you.
Thank you very much. And so we'll just stay in Lagos and let me show who will respond to that too.
Well, there's a due process of the law. Of late, I think there has been a discussion on monies that have been stolen, especially in the oil sector, that are being traced to foreign accounts abroad. What the president intends to do, he said, is that first of all, we will go out there to those countries with proven records of how those assets of Nigeria were stolen and lawfully removed from Nigeria and taken abroad, and to make a case for the repatriation of those assets. Now, when that money comes back into the country, that will be used as evidence against public officials in law courts where they will be taken. Again, it's a painstaking process which is in accordance with the law, and the president himself, had said jocularly in the past. When he first came as military head of state, what they did then was, if there was any suspicion that you have taken assets of the public illegally, they put you in detention. And then they looked for the evidence. And when they have found it, then they seize it, and then trial follows the later. So the constitution of the country does not permit that kind of thing now. So you have to just deal with the system, that when the evidence is gathered, and then they will be taken to court. I believe that corruption, he said, in the power sector, where it is brought to the table, would certainly be dealt with by the established agencies of government, including the ICPC, whose chairman we have here, and of course the EFCC.
All right, thank you very much. Still another call, this time from Ela. Rabi, you calling from Ela. Hello, Rabi.
Hello,
Go on. Oh dear. Rabi, you need to turn down the volume of your TV. I'm afraid we can't go on with that call. We'll have to ask you to call back. But back here in our Abuja studio, let's take this discussion further. People say that you get the kind of government you deserve. That's talking about corruption in high places in governance. So because the people put undue pressure on their leaders who have little or no choice but to pander to their needs. You get appointed today, the next day, all the pages of all the newspapers have been taken over by people who are congratulating you and reading out your sterling qualities. Some might not even have known you before. And everyone wants to identify from your village, from your town, from your school. You see, students associations, remember, this is from the class of 76. This is from the class of, and they're hosting you to parties. And that is a prelude to demanding extra favors which would be out of the establishment of the nation. And so, public officials feel they have an obligation to respond to people who have so congratulated them and applauded their, attaining heights.
I can't stop laughing for two reasons. First, you see, this pressure comes from not just classmates and schoolmates and other associates, even from the churches and the mosque, with due respect. Because sometimes you are sitting in your office, you see a long letter from the imam of one mosque and from the bishop of one church asking for donation, and they put so much pressure on you, making it look like without you the church and the members cannot see God, so you must contribute. It is pressure. There are other pressures that come from this kind of things. People who wish to key into the new development that has just happened to you. When I was first appointed, I know some people who came, look, that appointment that you are giving is for us, you gave me that thing for all of us, so you should look at them and say, but come and look at it. No, there is no money, and even if there is money, I can't give you. So we need, of course, yes, the fiscal environment creates and maintains pressure. So what do? We should look at our patriotic value, our patriotic values. How, because there is a nexus. If there is patriotism, if there is love of country, love of the job that you do, you will stick to the value. You will not adopt vices to serve the interest of one person. Certainly, your friends will start winning the day another person takes your job. Because they have to move on, they have to survive. So it is better that your phone don't ring even while you're in office, and you still keep silent after you leave office, than it rings intermittently and forever, well, as long as you're in the office, and it stops after the office.
Okay, I want to say I'm very happy that you raised this particular question, because the pressure that is brought on people who serve in public offices are very, very immense. Incidentally, today in ICPC auditorium, we hosted legislators from 6 states in the Northeast, and the engagement had to do with what we're trying to drive now. Let them understand that you will face this pressure, and we stated the kind of pressures you would face as a legislator or a parliamentarian, and this come in ways that make sense to you and unfortunately would lead you into more problems. You don't have water utilities in your community, so the community expects that you should provide the borehole. You don't have good roads. Some of the persons who voted for you intend to take on wives and they don't have money, so you have to assist them, you have to pay school fees, you have to pay medical bills. And our advice was very simple. These are legitimate requests, but the best form is that the executive branch of governance is in office to do exactly those things. You are not supposed to go and take over those things and pay from your earnings and create more earnings for yourself. Your function is to provide oversight of the executive. Look, you have provided in the budget X to my community,
and you have awarded the contract. So I am going to monitor how that money is spent. I'll follow the contractor step by step. That way it reduces the pressure on them. Well, DJ from Ola, sorry to keep you holding on for so long. Go ahead, go right ahead.
Yeah, hello?
Hello?
Yeah, my own is that we know corruption has been the biggest challenge in this our country today. The anti-corruption campaign is a very good mechanism that is being put in place to checkmate the misappropriation and perpetration of fraud by some few microscopic individual entities who wanted to carry out all the Nigerian resources to themselves. But our fear is, even at the grassroots level, this campaign should be extended, because what is happening down there is not only in Abuja. So we need the extension of this campaign in order to checkmate the appropriation that is taking place even at the local government level. Because when these people talk of corruption, always against those that live in Abuja without coming to local government level, where the common man is now the source of living, and nothing is being taken. The chairman will come to within the office for a period of time and go away. Nobody will take any action against his own corruption that is being committed. The concern is only on those at the national level there in Abuja. I think there is a need for the Buhari administration to come down to the lower level and checkmate all these malpractices. Just like, for instance, what has happened in one state recently, where all the headline of, where it is written clearly as the headline of on all the national daily, that the debt out amount that is meant to cater for the state salary is now siphoned to another site in order to enrich themselves. So these are clear corruption that is taking place even right now in Buhari administration. And some of these things, we need extension of Buhari evil eye to be even at the local level, so that we know the corruption will be fight. To go down, that the governors and the chairmen or even some of the parastatals should stop that kind of a thing. That's my own.
Alright, thank you very much. Though we didn't quite catch your name, we thought that we were having a DJ from Ola. I'm not quite sure, but that wasn't that wasn't a man. I do believe that there are no DJs who are men. But anyway, thank you for your contribution. We'll just take one or two tweets before we take a break here. And this one is from Tamuno. And he says, fighting corruption should be started from the House of Assembly to the reps and other parastatals. It will be very unfair if we keep minding the body instead of minding the engine, because the engine is what keeps you going. That was from Belema Tamuno, who tweeted in. Musa Mohammed in his own tweet says, thank PMB, that's President Muhammad Buhari, for the attitude of bringing back discipline into the Nigerian system. And of course, Anna Salisu says it's time for the corrupt people to make sacrifice for the common Nigerians. There are so many other tweets that are coming in, and we still have more calls coming in, but we'll take a short break here. When we return, we'll look at other aspects of fighting corruption in society. Stay with NTA Tuesday Live. We'll be back shortly.
The struggle for independence had been a long and tough one. Our founding fathers and compatriots sacrificed their comfort and even shed their blood. We cannot at this point in history afford to spirit away their sacrifices for immediate but temporary gains of belief. Let us emphasize what unites and not what divides us. Working for the unity of purpose with a stronger vision for a better tomorrow. NTA, growing with the nation.
No matter where you come from, no matter your religion, we are one. Let's live together. Let's not fight each other. Let us live apart. It doesn't matter where you come from. The fight for religion, man, woman, or child. It doesn't matter who you are. Nigeria first. No matter where you come from.
country unique and strength with remarkable potential to excel. Let us believe in ourselves and change our attitude for the sake of our country and generations unborn. Let us revive our cultural values which are our essence as a nation. Let us renew the spirit of patriotism and hope in our dear country. Do not take or give bribe. Be punctual always. No more African time. We can't expect to be global citizens and operate on African time. Join the queue. Insist that people are attended to on a first-come basis no matter who they are or where they come from.
Nigeria, good people, great nation.
NTA Tuesday Live, a network issue-oriented innovation talk show.
Thanks for staying with us. The issue is corruption here, and let's even ask this, Mr. Ikunta. Can the anti-corruption agencies really fight? I mean, do they have solid grounds on which to fight? Because you find that some people have said every Nigerian, this is everyone has a price. And by the time you're in any of these agencies and you begin to look into the activities of those who corrupt, they get back at you either through family or through your own weaknesses as a human being. That's why they say everyone has a price, or sometimes through threats. Can our agencies, are they empowered enough to really take the fight?
It's a very critical question you've raised. If properly funded and if given the right equipment which naturally would follow from proper funding, and then you have a national strategy to fight corruption like the civil society gentleman stated. We've had a draft national policy which has been tossed up and down for the past 4 years. We have just looked at it again 2 weeks ago. The point is that if you don't fund the anti-corruption agencies properly, you are exposing the staff who work in such agencies to grave threats to themselves, their families, and even the process of addressing in the correct manner their investigations. If you take what has made other agencies in other parts of the world successful, we attend the same meetings in Vienna, for example. We attend the same meetings in Tanzania, and we know what is provided for most of our colleagues. I'll give you a very simple example. If you take, for example, the Inspector General of Police, he is staying in an official quarters that is very secured, and so you'll be trying to commit suicide if you want to go attack him in that setup because he's doing his function. Now you set up an anti-corruption agency, and the head of that agency does not have secure quarters within which to live with members of his family, for example. Do you think that you have put him in the right frame of mind to be able to address some of the societal issues? But what about my operatives? They come under severe threat. I've had instances where to deliver summons to a highly placed political officer in this country, he told him, if you come back without summons again, I will deal with you like we have dealt with others in the past. And the gentleman went back and still served the process.
that weekend he came under attack in his home. It's still the subject of police investigation. So we must be able to create an environment where systems. I have this attitude in my life that if the country sets up an institution, you should be ready to fund and protect those institutions. Don't look for international funding to sustain the institutions which you voluntarily set up, whether it's in the health sector, whether it's in anti-corruption, whether it's in education. When these institutions are working properly, the international community will also benefit and would like to put in so much money to assist you. A clear example is, for example, Ebola. Nigeria has shown fantastic example. We have put in our money first, made a success of it. All other international institutions are running to us now. Please give us your best practices that you have done, and we're also ready to put money so that we would benefit from the experiences we've had. Now, my friend here said, when you travel out of the country, you feel very embarrassed because you are looked at and profiled that you're coming from Nigeria. That's not to say that in other countries of the world you don't have Nigerians who are contributing excellently well, and that should be what we should be paying more attention to. Give us the strength to make our persons the best in the world. I'll give you a simple example. The visa investigation we got involved in from ICPC. Somebody said, look, why are you getting involved in visas? If you have fake visas and you travel and you are arrested, and the tendency is that most visas from X country are fake, then they will pay more attention to citizens coming from that place. So we are beginning to clean out the act from my country and reduce it and help the embassies that you don't even leave the country. I begin to improve the travel aspect, and I'm happy to state that ever since we got involved in that sector, we have reduced to the barest minimum. That embassies now call us and say, please look at these aspects for us. So I agree that in as much as you want strong institutions to carry out the fight against corruption, we must also be ready to assist them in terms of capacity, in terms of funding, in terms of even support. We do well, come out publicly and say you have done well. If we are not performing too well, also come out, criticize us and say these are the aspects that we don't like, we would want you to change.
Okay. Let's go to the SSA media in Lagos. What's the president thinking about firming up these institutions and providing them with the needed support and the environment for them to perform their functions very well? What's the president thinking about that?
Well, it should naturally be expected that the president will, in the course of oncoming appropriations, be prioritizing on the key objectives on which he campaigned. Issue of national security, issue of joblessness and the economy generally, and of course the war against corruption. Let me, however, add that I think that in our own situation, the fight against corruption doesn't necessarily have to be reduced to the issue of funding or the lack of it. I think that the president has himself said this, for instance, that they are looking at all of the NGOs, the ministries and departments of the government. You find that there are resident rules, accounting procedures that have been established, the regulations are there. The problem has been that of non-compliance. For instance, the time you look at the situation of audit queries, for instance, a simple matter as that should have maybe been replied to within 24 hours. Some of them take weeks, months and years for them, to be responded to. And on account of which we sounded the note of warning to civil servants, you must all answer audit queries within 24 hours, and that the backlog must all be cleared within 30 days. So, and if you look at some other countries that also have succeeded well in fighting corruption, Botswana, for instance, what they did is to strengthen the institution of the Auditor General. So we have the choice to make. I have a feeling that this shouldn't become like some chicken and egg story. Funding comes and then we fight corruption, and then I guess it should be. There are things that can still be done, matters of compliance, and of course doing away with impunity, which pervades internet styles.
Okay, thank you. We have Mahmoud on the line from Sokoto. Mahmoud, go ahead.
Hello.
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 Go ahead, Mahmoud.
Hello.
Oh dear. Well, Mahmoud, we have you on, but if you're having any challenges knowing that you're on, we might have to just move ahead. Mahmoud, go ahead.
Hello.
Okay, we'll have to encourage you to call back. Yes, Rafsanjani.
I think one of the things that the president has to do in order to show support and protect those Nigerians that are actually willing to volunteer to give credible information that will lead to credible investigation of people who have done wrong in terms of corruption, is to actually make efforts to see that we have whistleblower protection, because a lot of Nigerians, including those agencies that are fighting corruption, they get threats every now and then. If you are actually working, whether you are a journalist, whether you are a civil society, whether you are a civil servant, if you are doing the right thing, you are likely going to be victimized by those people who they consider corruption as their main source of livelihood. So, to that extent, I think we want to approach Mr. President and National Assembly to, as a matter of fact, in order to complement the effort of the government on the fight against corruption, to initiate the process of having whistleblower protection. This is because recently the permanent secretary in Niger Delta Ministry, in the course of briefing Mr. President, she had mentioned how some money, had about over 800 million were not actually accounted for or diverted or stolen. And the next thing is threats. And the ICTC chair also equally confirmed that even his staff and even himself, he received occasionally some of these threats. I think it is important as a way of encouraging more Nigerians, motivating them to speak out against corruption and expose corrupt practices. We should be able to have a protection mechanism that will guarantee Nigerians that even if they are killed in this cause, they are not going to be abandoned. We have lost a lot of policemen, a lot of soldiers, and their families, they are languishing in poverty. Nobody bothers to take care of them, and I don't think it is correct. If you are carrying out a national assignment, there should be some protection of the people that are doing. I have a friend in EFCC. They went on operation. She almost lost her hand, and there are many of them in these agencies that are actually at this kind of risk. So I am appealing to Mr. President, through Garabashaw and of course the anti-corruption agencies to work towards us having whistleblower protection thing. We are happy as civil society to support that because we have experience. I mean, having as a representative of Transparency International in Nigeria, there are lots that we can do to help to put that in place so that Nigerians can feel comfortable to expose corruption. At the same time, also we know that there are a lot of frivolous, unsubstantiated, allegations that some faceless people are using to actually extort money. And I'm calling on the ICPC and EFCC that if they hear this kind of thing, they should investigate, and anybody who goes to any public person, with this kind of thing, extort money, that person should actually be prosecuted, because there are so many people who have been spoiling the name of civil society, that they say they are civil society. I don't think any genuine and credible civil society will go and be doing protest to protect litter or corrupt person.
Okay.
So I think it is important that we also have that. So I appeal to the the chair ICPC to actually initiate the process of ensuring that we have this whistleblower thing, so that Mr. President can send it to the National Assembly, and I believe that we can support the National Assembly to come up with a very strong protection mechanism for people who want to exploit corruption in Nigeria.
Okay, well, we'll just take a few emails that have come in here. This one it says, my question is, those monies being paid to EFCC as bailout, is it remitted to federal government account or their personal account? The federal government should look into FIRC and EFCC. Well, unfortunately, we still don't have the chairman of the EFCC here. We had said at the start of this program that we were expecting him to join us here. So this would have been his question. This one from Joshua from Lagos says, have all the probes you've been hearing yielded any result? And it shouldn't just be probing this or that alone. Prosecutions must follow. And then we have Tony who says, my suggestion is, if Nigeria can get the judiciary and the police right, believe me, Nigeria will be okay. If these two arms are corrupt, we still have a long way to go. Okay, so let's go back to the phones now. We have David, who is calling in from Abuja. David, go ahead.
Thank you very much for this opportunity. Okay, I want to say that the topic under discussion is a very timely one. First of all, I fully agree that the government has to strengthen the institutional frameworks to protect Nigeria from corruption. Secondly, if yesterday's leaders are celebrated and rewarded with national honors, today's politicians will not be persuaded to stop corruption, and tomorrow's public servants will not be dissuaded from corrupt practices. I actually believe that the president will fight corruption, but there's nothing on the ground right now. Up till now, still a zone, which is supposed to be 50 naira a liter, is still being sold over 170 naira in many places, and unfortunately it's not that effect on the common people. Appointees for federal appointments could not pass integrity tests for corruption, and admission to the universities is a controlled amount of 500,000 acceptance fee a year, and when becoming graduates you expect to be corrupt free. It cannot work. And I want to talk a little on the issue of the fundamental issue that causes corruption, the orientation against land service. There is no patriotism. A public servant that are sent to Abuja, there are people feel they are there to get their own share of the national cake. That is because there is no Nigeria. There is a big vacuum between the government and the governed. The two issues I also want to say is that the outrageous take-home pay of the legislature can never dissuade others from fighting to get their own share. And finally, what is the compensation to the Nigerian who fights trying to be corrupt free? Maybe that is the process or maybe it is when there is no compensation because there is a gulf between the government and the citizens, every approach on corruption will be cosmetic. So it's a very big issue that should be tackled. But the fault among them is they continue to be restructured to make Nigeria our own. And in that case, individuals with themselves defend their country and defend their cause until the national resources. Thank you very much.
Thank you very much. And I'd just like to take it from the end beat there, Mr. Michael Mary. What do you get when you do the right thing? And, we twisted the saying around that the patient dog gets no bone at all, goes to bed hungry.
I was at a stakeholder anti-corruption, we brought people from anti-corruption agencies, a seminar in Lagos last week or 2 weeks ago. People from ICPC were there, EFCC and the police. There, we came to the conclusion that, yes, the slogan, do the right thing, is good. But there are people who also do things right. And these people who do things right may be thieves, may be journalists, may be the corrupt public servant, and so forth and so on. The fact that he did the thing right and succeeded does not make it the right thing. So we need to stay on the message of doing the right things. And these right things can actually manifest. Our constitution is there. Even in our constitution, what is section, let me not have that, I think it's section 4 also. There are the 7 values, core values of this country are listed. And I insist that I am also looking forward to Mr. President declaring firmly one day, one morning, that we should return to the teaching of history in our schools and civics. Because we have forgotten so many things even as adults that we are no longer teaching our children. Instead, we are infecting our children in our homes, not even in school, with the bad things. Nothing is wrong with taking over of public school, of mission schools, if government will take them and fund them well. But what is wrong is when you remove those aspects of moral education that we've always had in the mission schools and all such other schools. That is what is wrong. So let us go back to those things. Then it was said that, and I'm happy today that we all talk about fighting corruption, and nobody is out there fighting the battle. So today more people are coming. Now we're hearing of whistleblowers, we're hearing of civil society people who are watching. Even the last, the Freedom of Information Act is a very good tool that citizens can use to check public officers and administrations. And we need to take it even beyond where we have taken it as an agency today. The agency has done some work, it can translate it into some languages, but we need to take it beyond that.
Alright, let's get this call from John from Kaduna. If he's still there, John, are you there? John, you have not turned down the volume of your TV. I can hear the echo. Hello, John. Well, okay.
Teaching history and civics
In our schools. I'm happy to state that from 2007, ICPC had introduced, in collaboration with the National Educational Research Commission, NERDC, a national values curriculum which has been infused in primary schools and secondary schools syllabus, known as the NDC. And in 2012, we introduced the Teacher's Guide to that. And it's part of the process that is ongoing. What we've done recently has been to move it up to the university level under what is known as the ACAD initiative. It was introduced by the United Nations Office on Drugs and Crime to get anti-corruption taught in our universities and polytechnics. And I'm happy to state that the University of Calabar is the first university in this country to have that taught at the entry level, 100 level, general studies, and it's been identified as one of the best practices coming out of Nigeria. We have been invited to make a presentation internationally in respect of that.
the whistleblowers protection that the civil society gentleman spoke about, there is provision in the ICPC Act to provide protection, but we know that the bill had actually been prepared and sent to the National Assembly to put into place a stronger whistleblowers protection facility in this country. I will just give a simple example. If a whistleblower comes under threat, maybe himself alone or with members of his family, in other jurisdictions of the world, you should be able to relocate that family at the expense of the anti-corruption agency or the police to the other part of the country and provide secure accommodation and protection for him under a witness protection facility. We have in our own little way tried to provide this. As a matter of fact, I've discussed with my West African counterparts that it might come to a situation where if we have somebody who is under severe threat, can I move into your own jurisdiction? But that comes to the issue of, do you have stock houses under which you can operate and satisfactorily do this? Thank you.
Well, Mr. Taylor, let's just stay with you here because this tweet is actually one you want to respond to. It's from David, and he says, if you're fighting corruption, you have to look into all higher institutions in Nigeria. And I remember you quite recently talking about loads and loads of unethical practices going on in institutions.
I'm very happy that David raised that issue. 2 years ago, in order to understand the incidence of corruption in our academic environment, I set up what was known as the University Systems Study and Review, and it came out with a 1,000-page report which is on internet today, and the outcome has been very, very rewarding. It was from the study we discovered in collaboration with the National Universities Commission that we had a lot of illegal degree awarding institutions in this country, and we took proactive action and we took out 26 of those institutions, seized their properties, prosecuted the sponsors of such institutions, and that has abated to a large extent that particular act. We also found out that some students had been victimized to the extent of staying 12 years in the university for a 4-year course. We took action in 2 universities and those issues were resolved. Recently, I'm sure you saw the celebrated incident where a student, a prospective student, a candidate, let me call her a candidate, was assaulted by somebody who claims to be a lecturer. She had the presence of mind to come out and speak. If you don't come out to speak, we might not be able to address some of these issues. That's why I'm happy with the new climb of things happening in this country. People are getting more interested and demanding for justice. As ICPC, how am I concerned with that recent incident? I'm concerned because this is a clear abuse of office. If the incident took place in the public office like it did, from what we have read, then we want to make this as a test case that we put the institution online to explain what internal policies do you have for gender protection. I know the University of Ibadan has that policy, and the policy came out as a result of collaboration with UNDP, and we have recommended that this must be done in all the universities.
Okay.
And I'm happy to also state that following our intervention in quite a number of universities, the university councils have taken on the role of anti-corruption to begin to read their institutions, which is what we expect. We should not be in every institution. We have anti-corruption and transparency units in those universities, and you have ASU, the professional union regulating lecturers. So they should also come and be part of this anti-corruption fight.
Thank you. Well, we're going back to the tweets now, and this is an interesting one. It says, our president should set a special punishment for any corrupt person found, like 25 years in prison, no matter the amount. But again, he also goes on to say, let's forgive all the repentant corrupt persons. Wealth return, there's a proviso here, wealth return, and start a new law, 25 years in prison for any corrupt person.
Well, I think the issue is that if you establish that you are stolen, I think the state should recover that money because it's not your money. It's a public fund. And what we don't want a repeat of what happened during the Abuja loot. I'm happy to say that I was part of the process that led to the return of some of the Abuja loot, from the Swiss, because as a civil society, we work with our civil society partners in the Swiss to get this money back. But at the end of the day, we cannot honestly say that that money that came was actually, judiciously utilized for the benefit of Nigerians. So what we want this government to do, as they are making effort to recover these stolen funds, let them bring this money back and put them to the use that they are supposed to be, beneficiary to Nigerian people through financing of education, financing of health, system, because it is now many Nigerians, because of just 2,000 naira, they can die because the infrastructure has collapsed. Many doctors that are supposed to also be doing work, and get paid, they are actually, diverting the patient to their own private clinics, or in some cases where there is even little support for the drugs, the drugs are falling. So I think we need to put eyes on all that. Okay. And I want to, call on the ICC chair here that we have actually in all these government agencies. Let us, activate ACTU so that they can actually, be more vibrant. And then we can also have the hotline mechanism so that you have the ACTU, you have the hotline, for actually reporting corruption, so that you don't need to even expose their identity.
I have five of that.
Yeah, this I think that we actually then when Ngozi was came first, as a minister, we worked with her to begin to do the this thing. But when she came back and we met, I asked her, I reminded her about that project. She said, yeah, it's okay, and we'll discuss. Up to the time she left, I think she just forgot about that one. I think we need to activate back that thing.
All right, we have a call from Owerri. Joseph calling in from Owerri. Go ahead. Is you still there?
Yeah, thank you very much.
Right.
The program, the topic, and I think it's really an interesting one. Please, my worry is some of the past leaders that probably the governments from there they have moved to the National Assembly or some positions where the military will cover them from being prosecuted. And most of these people, if you go back to their states where they are coming from, where they have served, they have actually caused a very big harm to where they are coming from. How is the president going to handle the issue of the military as prosecuting those that are needed to be prosecuted, that probably where they are currently now, the military will not allow them to be prosecuted?
Okay. So what do we? Well, some advice there. And back to the tweets, Abdulrazak Bello says, these names need to be punished and all those involved should be banned from public office and politics. But Shiri Akinwale asks a question, says, the anti-graft agencies should focus their attention on the banking sector, that is the channel used by corrupt officials, the banking sector. In the meantime, whistleblowers say Will there be a system in place to police and monitor the anti-corruption agencies? So these are the views of Nigerians coming through. But let's go back to Lagos now, and it would be good to hear Malam Garba Shehu respond to this email from Goodness. He says, I want to salute Mr. President for the corruption campaign. But why is it that only the corrupt leaders are given presidential pardon? Other criminals normally serve their punishment.
Well, I have no doubt absolutely in my mind that if they had formed part of the practices of the past, I don't expect this should continue. The President also exercises the power of the prerogative of mercy. As I speak to you now, we are not there yet. I don't think he has exercised the powers of pardon coming this far. However, the important point I think that needs not to be missed is the fact that beyond the President, this requires collective effort. Everybody has a role to play in the war against corruption. And we are deeply cultural people and societies. You realize something that more than the courts, more than the prison terms, we could possibly serve as a far more effective deterrent. The fear of exposure. You find that for many people, that fear that if I do this thing, that the community would know, and various communities have their own ways of, culturally, dealing with the matters such as this. They sanction you. In some communities, they can even banish you to the forest, that kind of thing. So everybody has their own part, including the mass communication system in the country. When we get to be interested, you would see that there's enormous power, behind the effort to expose. And as I said, really, it's in many cases a far more effective deterrent than the prison terms.
All right. Okay, we have Mau who's calling in from Lagos. Go ahead, Mau.
Mau who's calling in from... Hello, sir.
Yes, hello.
Hello, sir.
Hello, Mau, go ahead.
Hello. Mau speaking, sir.
Go on.
Hello, sir. Yes, sir. Speaking, sir. Sir, when Buhari came in as a military head of state, he did intimate that the problem of Nigeria was the press. And we understand that, I think News Watch, then published by people like Dan Agbase, actually admitted that the problem of Nigeria was the press. And I remember he said that that was the time for them for investigative journalism, and he did enjoy it. Today, the problem in Nigeria and the problem of corruption still remains the press. I don't think Mr. Mike Omeri there sitting has helped the issue in any way. Neither has the press helped the problem. Investigative journalism has disappeared. Nigerians are not fed with what is truly happening in Nigeria. That's why today we talk about what? Brown envelopes. The press goes to politicians, and once they collect their brown envelopes, they disappear. And nothing is truly said about what is happening on the ground. Let us face ourselves. The press can help the president fight corruption. Anyway, we should help the president to fight corruption. Without this, I think it's a difficult, because the president today is highly disadvantaged. When he came in as a military man, it was easy for him to set up military tribunals. Today, he is talking about what? Due process, rule of law, going to the court. It's unfortunately for him. But what of the senators who should be able to help him with the relevant laws? They themselves are what? Corrupt. How do you create the laws? It is going to be very difficult for him. It's a great fight, it's a terrible fight. And he's fighting from a point of disadvantage. Thank you.
Well, thank you very much. Mr. Michael Mary would respond to that, and after he does, we will return to Lagos because the senior special assistant to the president, he himself, journalist of so many years standing, so he will talk about that as well. But first, let's listen to you.
Thank you, and thank you, Mario. Well, like I said, we have instituted a number of strategies within the NOA system to assist agencies and also our country in the fight against corruption, and that is why we were the only institution that publicized extensively the Freedom of Information Act and even translated copies of those to local languages. We have entered into partnership with a number of other institutions, and in the same vein, today with the ICPC, we are also discussing with Nigerian universities. We are discussing with the NUC. We have reached advanced stage of introducing patriotism education, which will subsume all aspects of what we are talking about daily living, our lives on a daily, on a day-by-day basis, so that people would understand this corruption. It is not as not being a monopoly of just people in government, but everybody. After all, our communities are becoming accomplices in this corrupt tendency and practices. That is why when some public officials are being apprehended or taken to court, some communities will rise and go in their defense, in protest. So we need all of us, and like I said, it's at everybody's fight, and we need more people on the field to fight corruption. We cannot sit down and keep pointing accusing fingers, and given the first opportunity, we exhibit a form of corrupt behavior.
Okay.
Even on the road, when you several times I've been insulted on the road, if you're waiting for the right turn green, someone will come and play his horn, he thinks you are blocking his way, he maneuvers anyhow and insults you to pass the green red light. All of this contributes to an aspect of this corruption that we're talking about, which has expanded the definition of corruption within our land.
All right. Just before we ask Bashir to respond to that on the press, let's take this call. Mohammed, who is calling in from Ila, who's been on the line for quite a while. Mohammed, go ahead.
Hello?
Yes, hello.
Yeah, I would like to advise Nigerians, the well-meaning Nigerians, please, every million Nigerians should at least support the effort of the current administration on the issue of fighting corruption, the endemic that hinders progress in our dear Nigeria. Please, for those who are saying that Mr. President is selective on his effort, for fighting corruption, I doubt much if he is selective, because if you are stolen government property, I doubt much if you have any right to claim that President is selective on these issues. In the first place, why did you steal the money? So please, Nigeria should take care and support this government on this issue.
Okay. Thank you very much. And so we will now return to Lagos. And as he responds to the question about the role of the press, I also want him to take on this other question because it's from Ali Zakaria, and he says it goes together with you. And again, the same question. Can the president probe his close associates, even though the special advisor said they are ready to change? Does this mean that they will not be going for trial? Well, I think that you already answered that in the past. But again, just let's hear you on the question of the press and corruption.
Okay, let me take the last first. The president, under our constitution, will not determine who goes to trial and who does not. If he does that, then he will be usurping the role of constituted bodies such as the ICPC, the police, and other investigators, including EFCC. And when they do their investigations, all of these bodies don't need to ask for permission from the president to go before a judge for the trial of suspects. So the president is strictly a due process person. He will not interfere in matters of investigation and trial of suspects, and where they are convicted, you will not see this president asking them not to go to jail or invoking immunity or whatever, to stop. So that, as far as is concerned, people need to be reassured that the president would permit the investigation and trial of whosoever is involved, whether they come from the same state or party or in the government and all of that. Now, going to the issue of the media. Now, I think that the earlier caller was perhaps, I would say, unfair to the press in the country as they now exist. Because investigation journalism is present and alive in the country today. What is even more interesting is that because of the growth and the diversity of the mass communication system, in the past, 30 years ago, which he cited when Muhammadu Buhari, as the general in the Nigerian army, was head of state, you probably could count the number of the newspapers in the country on your hand. You don't have independent television, you don't have independent radio and all of that. Now, if anybody thinks that under the present circumstances and with the coming of the social media, these things have changed tremendously. You cannot now cover the truth. Let me be honest and straightforward. You would, for as long as your palm cannot cover the sun, so would it be that you cannot cover the truth. Look, if there was a road accident today on your way home, in the past it could be feared that maybe the first policeman on site could distort the facts and assign blame on the wrong kind of person. Now, with the telephone in their hands now, you'll be amazed at how many people will be taking pictures of that accident scene. And before you know it, this is already wired on the web, and people in far-flung places within Nigeria and outside of Nigeria are already seeing this thing. So investigation is there, and with the fact that journalism itself has become democratized, everyone with simply a computer or even a mobile phone can do journalism. So therefore, they have taken this, it's been taken away from the control of the few, that powerful, arrogant journalist who can cover his friend, shield them from exposure. That day is gone. It will never come back again. And so therefore, let's give it to Nigerian journalism. It's growing, and it is growing, as I said, especially the new media, the mass communication systems have been enriched by the coming of the internet, and that the contributions are coming. Everybody now can just, bring evidence and show that wrongdoing is going on, and people would believe it, will see it themselves. All right. Thank you. Yes. Thank you. Yes.
sensitizing and orienting Nigerians is not a touch and go, one attempt. It's supposed to be a sustained campaign. The NOA needs logistical support. Today I was on television with some media organizations, practically begging their chief executives to allow me air public service announcements on these aspects that we need to take to the people. I have to pay. I don't. NOA does not have the logistical support to do all of these things. Where we are opportune to talk for free or to campaign for free and we do that with a lot of energy and conviction. But there are other things that we would require the media of mass communication to support. It's not free. So, and the media too needs to be supported. So that certain aspects of their work would not. A lot of the media houses, I'm sure, underfunded. The market is not buoyant. They have many readers but few little resources. So somehow we should strategically have a fund. We need a strategic media intervention fund to support established newspapers and those who are working hard to serve the public.
Alright, so as we begin to wind down, I'll just take a few of the tweets that have come in because we have just have just a little more than a couple of minutes to go. And these ones here, they say this issue of corruption should not just be at the federal government level. In fact, you see, when you don't even pay your staff, that is part of corruption. A major here says the campaign should be taken to local government areas because my local government area to date are still paying half salary after 3 months. Half. Well, so that petitions are going to know what half is. The same goes for yes, this other one is also talking about Ebbins Owen also says Ministry of Defense is still owing its newly recruited civilian staff salaries of September to December. That is corruption. That is what he says too. And so it's not just going to be at the level of the federal government. But interestingly, of course, a question came in from Mr. Atta, and he says, is it possible for all NDAs to internally publish every monetary allocation for every worker in the NDA to see? Same publishing expenditures for accountability. What is the position of the Freedom of Information Act? Recently, the NNPC boss promised publishing transactions for Nigerians to see, so he's asking if it's possible for NDAs to do that.
It is possible, it is the right thing to do.
Yeah, right. Fact, if you go to other countries, it is the outside. Okay. And that is why we're talking about this contract transparency thing. Because you didn't need to go and struggle for this. If you just go to the website, click, you see who is, having the air block. How did he get it? So I mean, these are processes that are very,
And then from the WAP from Jos, and he says, I suggest that amendments be made to our sentencing policies to laws to be more strict and stringent on violators. For instance, imagine how different it would have been if the officer who mismanaged the about 10 billion pension fund forfeiture which he pocketed and still go to jail for no less than 20 years and disqualified from any public office. Imagine how it would be. We serve as a deterrent for others. And well, finally, I am very happy with the president. That's Jim Song. I'm happy with the president's move against corruption, and I want us to know that our unborn children will hail us when we do it right. That came in from Jim Song. Well, it does seem that all too soon we have come to the end of this program. We'll have to leave it here, and we'd like to thank our guests who have been here. This parting shot I reserved for this while, and of course I'm going to say we take solace in this tweet, which has come from Chimeze Abel Okere, and he says, I don't get what people mean when they say those who supported PMB, that's President Muhammadu Buhari, Has he freed anyone indicted of corruption? Now that's a rhetorical question. Well, we give you the last say on that, Garba.
Well, certainly, I mean, there is nothing like that. I mean, that's a very fair comment.
Okay.
And you will not see the president doing that because he will not interfere, with these processes of the law.
All right. So, on that note, we'd like to thank you very much for your time. Thank you for being part of this program. That's Warren Garba Shehu, who is Senior Special Assistant to the President on Media and Publicity. Thank you for being with us.
Thank you for being with us.
And back here in Abuja, I'd like to say a big thank you to the Chairman of the ICPC, Mr. Ikunta. Thank you for sharing your time with us and your thoughts.
Thank you.
And also the Director General of the National Orientation Agency, Mr. Michael Mary. Thank you for coming.
Thank you, but owning the best things in life is very good, not at all costs. Just not at all costs.
All right. And for our regular friend here from Sislak, Rafsanjani, we'd like to thank you for always bringing your thoughts and sharing them with us on this program. Thank you for coming.
Thank you.
All right. And to all of you who have been part of this program and who have called in, contributed, tweeted in, or sent in emails, we thank you for being part of this discussion. And we say next week we'll be back with another issue on NTA Tuesday Live. I'm Phil Stover. Bye for now.